The shock did not begin with wedding photos or leaked invitations. It began with a voice no one expected to hear, cutting through months of speculation with unsettling clarity. Just as rumors about a possible 2026 wedding reached their loudest point, Sam Heughan's family suddenly entered the conversation, changing everything. For years, Sam had guarded his private life with near-military discipline. Interviews stayed focused on work, jokes deflected personal questions, and any hint of romance was quickly redirected. That consistency trained the public to expect silence, which is why the sudden involvement of his mother felt so jarring. The timing alone raised eyebrows. Wedding rumors had intensified, fueled by anonymous tips, alleged venue bookings, and supposed guest lists circulating online. Nothing had been confirmed, yet the narrative was gaining momentum, shaping expectations as if the event were already inevitable. Then came the unexpected moment. Sam Heughan, long known for her quiet support and distance from celebrity drama, spoke out publicly. Not through gossip outlets or sensational headlines, but with words that felt deliberate, measured, and impossible to ignore. What unsettled people most was not what she said, but the fact that she said anything at all. Parents of celebrities rarely intervene unless something has crossed a line. Her decision immediately reframed the situation, signaling that the rumors were no longer harmless background noise. Those close to the family suggested the pressure had been building privately for months. Persistent speculation, invasive commentary, and assumptions presented as fact had begun to blur boundaries. What the public saw as curiosity had become, from the family's perspective, intrusion. Sam's words carried a tone of quiet firmness. There was no denial, no confirmation, and no emotional outburst. Instead, she addressed the situation with restraint, emphasizing respect, patience, and the right to privacy in matters that do not belong to the public, no matter how famous the individual involved may be. That restraint only intensified the reaction. Media outlets scrambled to interpret every phrase, every pause, every implication. Some framed her comments as protective, others as corrective, and a few suggested they hinted at deeper tensions behind the scenes. For Sam, the moment marked a shift he had worked hard to avoid. His personal narrative, once tightly controlled, was now being shaped by someone who spoke from authority rather than publicity. The involvement of a parent carries emotional weight that no public statement ever could. Fans reacted with mixed emotions. Many expressed sympathy, acknowledging how relentless speculation can become. Others felt unsettled, questioning why the family felt compelled to speak now if there was nothing to address. The absence of clarity invited interpretation from every angle. What made the situation particularly volatile was the year attached to the rumor. A 2026 wedding implied planning, intention, and commitment on a scale that magnified every assumption. Sam's timing suggested a desire to slow that momentum before it solidified into perceived truth. Behind the scenes, industry insiders noted a visible tightening around Sam's public presence. Appearances became fewer, interviews more guarded, and questions about personal life firmly shut down. It was as if a boundary had been reinforced, not just for him, but for those around him. The narrative had shifted from romantic curiosity to family concern. Once that happens, gossip loses its playful edge and takes on moral weight. Speculation is no longer about entertainment, but about respect, responsibility, and consequence. By the end of that week, one thing was undeniable. Whatever the truth about a 2026 wedding might be, the conversation had changed permanently. The sudden voice of Sam Heughan's mother had done what no denial ever could. It reminded the world that behind every rumor is a family watching, listening, and deciding when silence is no longer enough. The impact of that sudden statement did not fade quietly. Instead, it lingered, forcing the public to reconsider how far speculation had gone and who it had begun to affect. What was once framed as harmless curiosity now carried the weight of family involvement, a line many felt should never have been crossed. For Sam Heughan, the situation became more complex than any rumor about romance or marriage. He was no longer managing his own privacy alone. He was now navigating the consequences of loved ones being pulled into a narrative he had tried to keep distant. Friends described him as calm but visibly protective, aware that silence now carried different implications than before. Industry observers noted a subtle but meaningful shift in how Sam handled public spaces. He appeared more formal, less spontaneous, and carefully selective about where and when he engaged. This wasn't retreat, but recalibration, the behavior of someone reinforcing boundaries after they had been tested. Meanwhile, attention remained fixed on Sam Heughan, whose words continued to echo long after they were spoken. Commentators dissected her tone, pointing out that she neither fueled nor denied the wedding rumors. Instead, she redirected the focus toward dignity, respect, and the human cost of relentless attention. Some interpreted her message as a quiet warning, not a demand for silence, but a reminder that speculation has consequences beyond headlines. In doing so, she transformed the conversation from one about a potential ceremony into one about emotional boundaries and familial loyalty. The public response reflected that shift. Conversations online grew more restrained, with many fans expressing discomfort at how deeply personal the narrative had become. The excitement that once surrounded the idea of a future wedding was replaced by reflection on whether such curiosity had been earned or assumed. Still, the lack of concrete answers ensured the story did not disappear. Questions lingered about why the family chose this moment to speak and what pressures might have prompted it. The mystery deepened, not because of new information, but because of what remained deliberately unsaid. Behind the scenes, sources suggested the statement had achieved its intended effect. Media inquiries softened, and the tone of coverage became more cautious. The involvement of family shifted the ethical landscape, reminding outlets that not every rumor deserves amplification. For Sam, the episode marked a turning point. His approach to privacy, once personal, now carried a collective dimension. Protecting himself also meant shielding those who had never asked to be part of the spotlight. That responsibility altered how the future would be navigated, regardless of what plans may or may not exist. The question of a 2026 wedding, once central, gradually lost its urgency. Instead, the focus turned toward the broader implications of public ownership over private lives. Sam's words had reframed the issue, making it less about anticipation and more about accountability. As weeks passed, the story settled into an uneasy quiet. No confirmations arrived, no denials followed, and no additional statements were offered. That silence felt intentional, a closing gesture rather than an invitation to continue. In the end, the most lasting effect of the drama was not clarity, but perspective. A reminder that even in an industry built on visibility, some moments demand restraint. And sometimes, the most powerful voice in a scandal is not the celebrity at its center, but the family member who steps forward to say enough. For Sam, the episode marked a turning point. His approach to privacy, once personal, now carried a collective dimension. Protecting himself also meant shielding those who had never asked to be part of the spotlight. That responsibility altered how the future would be navigated, regardless of what plans may or may not exist. The question of a 2026 wedding, once central, gradually lost its urgency. Instead, the focus turned toward the broader implications of public ownership over private lives. Sam's words had reframed the issue, making it less about anticipation and more about accountability.